Hello everybody, Jordan Orell here, and today I want to do a video. I'm not actually sure what I'm going to do this video on. It's a nice rainy, not rainy, but coronavirus-y day to stay inside and make videos, so I would like to talk about circumcision, I think, and I may share this. I also very possibly won't. Because it's going to be very unfocused and it's going to be I've been doing long journaling sessions every day. But there is a possibility I will go into a deep dive into circumcision trauma and also talk about this research study I'm doing. And so both of those I think would be things that people might be interested to hear about. This is going to be contemplative, meaning it's not just me blurting out a bunch of information on you. It's actually a process of me going into my own depths and processing either my own experience or my own thoughts and things that are important to me for my own benefit. And so this is really a demonstration of a process that you can use actually. And even more than a demonstration, it's really just intended for my own process. But yeah, I may also put this exercise below if I decide to, and some of the details from it below if I decide to post it in the description. So a lot of times there will be spaces where I'm just letting myself sink into my own psyche, to allow whatever wants to come forth to come forth. And if you don't like that, then you can skip those parts, or you can not watch this video. No one's making you watch it. I just want to note that my hair is really cool today. I'm terming this haircut J18. It's new. This hairstyle. I think it's unique. I think it's completely novel. I don't think anyone's ever styled their hair in this way before, and I'm really proud of it. So just giving you all angles, so if you want to copy it, you can kind of have a good idea of it now. I think it's pretty cool. So it wasn't even on purpose, to tell you the truth, but that shocks you. But this is just it's part of my mystique, you know. I'm just like that. So I will be also drinking this tea. It's ginger and turmeric because my wrists are fucked, and I need something to take down the inflammation. So I drink this every day. The reason I use so much space in these talks is because I believe space is just as valuable as words, more valuable in fact. Allowing yourself to fall into that space. You know, I don't know if there's any quantum magic or anything mystical happening there, but I've spent a lot of time studying spiritual traditions where you know, what we exist in, the spacious emptiness of the universe, is actually God in a sense. And whatever the metaphysical status of any of that is, there was also biological explanations for it. But you know, the relaxation response, certainly I notice when I allow myself to sink into space. Much more deep things come through. Much more relevant and important and powerful things come through. The longer I sit in space, the more powerful it is. If I sat in space for 10 days, and I have done that before, and then I write something, it's like world changing. So that's why I allow myself space. And I would recommend, do the same thing yourself. And during these videos, you can let yourself kind of cogitate and contemplate, and rather than being impatient and being like, okay, when's he going to say the next thing? Just notice that impatience and let it be there. Just be with whatever's coming up. Just be totally in the moment. Just be with. That's what meditation is, and that's why meditation is so powerful, why mindfulness helps with so many different things, with so many different physical disorders, mental disorders, because it just allows you to see things clearly, allows all the different elements of your personality and of your life to kind of relate to each other and sort of start to integrate. There's an intelligence and a force that is what we are, essentially. An intelligent love, if you will, that kind of wants to create a good life for ourselves and a good world. And so if we just take a step back from all the things that we get caught up in, that naturally manifests itself, and we are able to reorganize our lives and reorganize and confront trauma and find solutions to our problems. So that's what the space is for. And I'm not going to apologize for it again or try to explain it. I might explain it more. I like talking about it, but just so you know, that's why the space is there, and I hope you use it as I do. And that's why, well, the other reason I'm not editing it out is because it takes a lot of time, and because I don't have any editing skills. And so someone could create a version of this or create clips from it that are take out the space or highlight certain parts, but I'm just going to leave them in because I think the space is the most important part. And I would recommend anyone to meditate and give yourself space. Just see what comes through. So I think I'd like to start by talking about my own circumcision trauma. This process is basically letting yourself know what you need to know, going through the past, present, and future of the trauma, before the trauma, after the trauma, the future that hasn't happened yet, all the details of the trauma, the meaning of the trauma, especially and most importantly perhaps, your physical sensations that come up and the emotions from the trauma that come up, and just letting yourself know all of that, putting that into words as best you can, letting yourself kind of fall into the flow of it, letting yourself say what you need to say, know what you need to know, be just yourself, and feel these feelings, and share that. Express that to yourself. And this process, you can do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. You can do it in the shower, you can do it in the car, you can do it anywhere. It's nice to have some privacy. You can do it in writing too. A lot of people prefer writing. I'd suggest try both. Writing and speech are both great. You don't have to do it into a camera by any means. Or record it. You can delete it if you want. And sometimes that's good because it helps you to not pressure yourself. It's probably, especially if you're first starting, you really want to not judge yourself at all and just let it come through. You're basically channeling different aspects of yourself, different parts of yourself from your past, different emotions and different experiences you have around circumcision or any trauma. Yesterday I did this for a bunch of different sexual and physical abuse I suffered throughout my life. Which kind of inspired this. So powerful. I've already done this a lot of times, so I don't know if it's going to be as powerful as that was, or if it's going to come through in anything in the same way. But I know I still have a lot of circumcision trauma left. Perhaps always will. I don't know. At this point, I've become humble enough to know that it comes in and out. So I'm gonna just kind of switch into that mode now. I'm speaking to myself and listening to myself. Listening to yourself also, I will say, is just as important as speaking to yourself. Again, I'd say more important. It's part of that space. Is that space of listening? You are being that space for yourself. So. Tea. I'm feeling like a soreness, just a sadness. It's not quite right. It's like a depression. It's finding the words. Sorry, I keep coming back to it. You're finding the words. You want to find the words that are just right. And sometimes it's a very annoying process. But you want to really get into expressing exactly what you're feeling and all of the details around it in excruciating detail. Yeah. I notice my heart's beating a little bit because I know I might share this, and I feel a little bit annoyed with that because I feel distracted, and it distracts me from the process, which this isn't mainly to share it, because if I was trying to make something to share, then it wouldn't be good anyways. I have to do it for myself, or else it won't be shareable. It's not a performance. It's me being honest with myself, giving myself what I need. So I feel a little bit calm and glad that I'm giving myself that gift, and a little bit relaxed, knowing that this is for myself and that I don't have to share it, and I might not. I actually feel pretty good, you know? Today's a good day. I just masturbated, and it was quite enjoyable. I've also been getting healthy and just enjoying my body so much because of all the work I've been doing, and because my restoration is going well, and just because it's a good day and I've been very productive, and feeling productive and powerful makes me feel effective and reduces my stress. And when I have low stress, the trauma doesn't come up very much. But I know it's still there. And on a bad day, it is still horrible sometimes. And yeah, there's a achiness. Like a twinge of like, I know that's true. That is true. And it's not gone. And when I feel like this, I feel so optimistic. I feel like it's gone. It's going to be gone forever. Even when I write stuff or say stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'm healed. The circumcision trauma's all gone. I'll even actually believe that, really. And it's not true. It's just when I'm not stressed, it's not there as much. And sure, I mean, it's so bizarre because I think I'm continuing to spiral downwards into deeper and deeper levels of healing. I think I feel probably more alive and happy now than I have since the circumcision trauma occurred. I mean, since I learned about circumcision. And probably happier than I've ever felt before that, too. For the most part. At least right now. So what is, and you'll notice me doing this, I'll probably continue commenting on the process throughout because I think it's helpful to those listening, watching. I like to ask myself questions. Asking questions is a really, really powerful way of communicating with yourself. So whenever you feel like you need to go deeper or there's something you want to express, there's something you want to go into, there's something that needs to happen, you can just ask yourself a generic question like what is it that I need to know right now? Or what is it that I want to go into? Or where is the pain right now? What is the thing that I need to talk about? What is the thing that needs to be addressed? Any generic question like that, just asking yourself, and you can kind of feel into what it is. Play with it, try different things. This is a very experimental process of just speaking about all of it and seeing how it feels. So, what is it that I feel I need to address still? What is it that's most important to me? The thing that's coming up is when I masturbate. If I have enough stress, if I'm not feeling particularly good, I will feel compelled to think about circumcision. This is going to be very vulnerable at times because you have to really reveal like everything that's that you need to know to yourself, and not hide from yourself, even if it's shameful or painful or embarrassing. Or that's why it's good to do this just on your own and not post it publicly, as I'm planning to do. But I don't give a fuck, dude. I've already posted quite a lot, so. You know, I'll read about, last night I was Googled, what do women think about penises, which I was actually in not a terrible mood. And so it wasn't anything specifically about circumcision, although that came up a couple times in things I was reading as I was masturbating. I'm a very cognitive person, and I get turned on by um, by thinking about what other people think about, or by ideas, by evolutionary biology. And it's things like that, but even more geared towards circumcision sometimes, or wanting to watch intact porn still, or, it's so much less than it used to be, but it's still there. And even if it's not reading about something, perhaps more often it's just thinking about it. It's like I can't not think about it, if I'm stressed at least. More than anything, it's just annoying. It's like, I want to just experience my body as it is. And you'll hear me doing this, talking about solutions. My mind likes to think about solutions and values and worldview and how to address whatever problems are coming up. And so often I will jump to that, and I like doing that, and I think it is helpful. I want to just be able to be in my body, and something a client of mine said the other day made me realize that, wow, I really haven't done that as much as I could. I haven't been just experiencing just my body, without any fantasizing, without any imagery or thoughts. But also, it's not just that, it's like, I do want to be able to fantasize too, and control my fantasies and not have them veer towards circumcision, and not think about it. And I can to some degree, but when I'm stressed, it's not always there. And I don't know how to fix that, and I don't know why that is, so I think that would be good to go into. Whenever there's something I don't understand, and I can feel like that doesn't make sense, then I'll let myself kind of drop more into it and get curious about it. Why is that? What is it I'm missing? I feel like I should be healed by now. I've done so much healing. I should be healed. I feel annoyed. I feel impatient. And I feel like that's a part of why, when the circumcision stuff continues to come up, I'm always tempted to just push it down and say, like, fuck it. I don't want this. Let's just not feel it. And then, honestly, I think in a way that's more of the problem. Than that it comes up, is that I'm not dealing with it when it comes up. I had all these big plans. I was going to just start up again and just do a couple hours of trauma work every day for another, months, just until school starts in September. And I haven't done that. I stopped after maybe a month, and now I haven't been doing it for the past couple months. I feel kind of ashamed about that. I feel annoyed with myself. It's like, I know I need to do this work. I really want to do this healing work. But there's so many other things I want to do too, and that's valid. But I feel like I'm getting the other things in order. I've gotten my health in order. I'm writing this book on circumcision trauma healing. Coronavirus is making it so that I don't have to worry about too much else, and kind of slowing everything down so that I have plenty of time to do this. I need to do it. And I still feel discouraged. I still feel like I'm not going to do it. Because, look, the sexual abuse thing, I mean, that's almost bothering me just as much now. And I noticed today when I masturbated, I was able to separate out that experience from my experience of sexuality. And usually it bothers me a little bit. And so it is good to focus on that too. You know, circumcision trauma, as much infinitely worse it is than anything else, I've already dealt with the vast, vast majority of it. And so I need to finish the rest of it, yes, but I also need to focus on the other things that matter. So it's okay, you know, it's okay to do this once a week or a couple times a week. But I do want to slow down. I do want to slow down when I have sex, when I masturbate. Do that more contemplatively. It's not just slowing down. I mean, sometimes it's slowing down. It's bringing more consciousness to it. It's letting myself really be with all my feelings and my body experience, the thoughts, being just more aware of it all. That feels really good. Slowing down right now. Just saying it's okay. It's okay that you need to slow down. Slowing down is good anyways. It gives you more pleasure. I want to learn to slow down. And you know, that's something really important, is seeing all the facts of this trauma. Not just how it harms me, but the positive things that happen because of it, or because of the healing work that I do. And I do want to become better at sexuality. And perhaps I would be so obsessed with changing the world, which I always have been, that I wouldn't give myself the time of day as much if I wasn't so traumatized. Perhaps I wouldn't be able to slow down, and really, I wouldn't have gotten so deeply into my own sexual psychology and explored this so deeply if I hadn't been traumatized. And that's important. And it's important to give myself more to that, and to realize that there's no limit to how much sexual mastery I can gain, to how deeply I can transform my own consciousness and slow down and find where the pleasure is, see where the pain is, have consciousness for the pain, let it dissipate through my mindfulness of it. And transform the trauma into pleasure, into presence. funny, it's like I'm a very sexual person and I masturbate a lot, and I know that in the short term it seems so indulgent and like a waste of time to let myself really explore my sexuality consciously and let this trauma process when I'm pleasuring myself or when I'm doing anything else, just doing this. It seems so indulgent. It seems like such a waste of time. And yet it's like, wow, when I do this, my energy levels skyrocket through the roof. I am a new man. I have more energy. I have more. I'm more resilient than I used to be. I am. It's really difficult to hurt me now. I do feel almost like enlightened in a way. I feel almost like there is no person here to be harmed anymore. Like it eliminated a part of myself. And it's not that it eliminated a part of myself, it's that, well, that's not the whole story, because it did. It destroyed me. It destroyed me and stomped me into the ground. And it felt like my soul just being ripped to shreds and everything I was falling apart. And I think neurally, in the brain, that may be true, that your brain circuits are almost fried in a way because the trauma fires so many circuits, and then it has to suppress, and then it goes back and forth, and it just scrambles things in a way. I think it is true that it does. And then you learn to manage your brain in a new way, and that's this new self that comes through. It is the phoenix, and it is increases your resiliency and your ability to not be harmed, because it's I think that's what's it called, distress tolerance or management or emotional management. I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is. I feel like I have an increased ability to notice when I'm upset and handle that effectively. Like it's more difficult to upset me. And I know how to. I feel like the rest of my life has gotten better too. I feel like I've just improved my life. To cope with the circumcision trauma, I've improved my health. I've been trying to figure out how to improve relationships. I focus some on sexuality, and I want to do that more, and that's an intention I have, as well as relationships. I really want to do that more. I've improved the other aspects of my trauma, those would have been there regardless of circumcision, and I probably wouldn't have addressed them. I probably would have just pushed it down. And I've only started to do that, and wow, it's so powerful. Trauma has such a powerful effect. And I can see that actually because of circumcision trauma, I'm going to probably, it's probably one of the things that's really pushing me to address my other trauma. Or is the only thing, perhaps. Perhaps it would have been addressed later in my life. Or not. I mean, really, it is possible that all my trauma is being healed because circumcision trauma was so severe that I was forced to figure out how to deal with it in a profound way. And that I can now apply that to any other emotional and traumatic wounds. Was just thinking about pulling an Eric Klopper and just taking it all off, In a couple weeks, give me a couple weeks when I'm finished with my my health program. I'll take some photos for y'all. I've become more brazen, less less inhibited, less afraid to say sexual things or anything. I think I think it really helps with that. I don't know if this is productive. I'm just going into. It is productive. It's good to see this. But I feel myself getting off track and just kind of talking to talk. The point is, what do I actually still need to know? Part of it is, sorry. I have a cold. Not coronavirus. There's no cough. In case you're worried about getting it through the screen. There's some deep. It's just that you can feel it there. You can feel it there, and it's hard because right now, missed on the hair. Oh, that's fine. There we go. It's so profound. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna go with this because I'm having trouble expressing this and finding the trauma even. When you feel good, you feel good. And you're just in a good mood, and it's harder to access that trauma, but it's there, and both because I know I go through these phases, but also I can feel it. It's like in my stomach and in my dick. I can feel just a twisted, it's like a purple, twisted, knot of just darkness, just pure, what is it exactly? It's hatred. It's hatred, and I keep coming back to this. For me, I think the core of it is hatred. I really need to do the study to understand what it is for other men, because I don't know that that's the same, but for me it is. And so it's important. Because it's the opposite of love. And love is what I care about. The most. Yeah, I wouldn't say God is love because I don't really believe in God. I believe love is God. What did I just say? I don't believe God is love, but I believe love is God. That is, we can make love God, and we should, because love is what we are. And ultimately we are God in a sense. But I'm not going to get into that. Hatred is the opposite. And it's here. Where does this hatred come from? It's the fact that someone did this to me. It wasn't a mistake. In some ways it was. But there's a part of me that knows it also wasn't. And that's important, and that's something I haven't actually gone into enough. So I'm going to talk about this. Because this affects me, because circumcision does come from hatred. It comes from hatred of sex. Because if we were comfortable talking about sex, and if we all thought sex was a good thing, and that pleasure is a good thing, it never would have started in the first place. And so it did come from that. And it's been perpetuated by that for most of its history, to some degree. And so it is, I was circumcised ultimately, because society hates sex. And it continues because society is afraid of sex, and because it hates sex, and because it's afraid to talk about sex. It's embarrassed about sex. And because children are not treated as human beings. And because their future isn't considered. And I hate that, because the future has infinite possibility, and children are the most, babies are the most perfect example of that. Their future is all they have. They are all future. There's no past, really. They're just future. And it's like, that's what that human being is. To take away his future is so fucking wrong, that someone did that to me. That someone didn't consider my future. And that someone let these myths about sexuality, or fear about sexuality, or unwillingness to talk about it, or to really think about it, whatever, why ever it wasn't obvious to any of the people in society who contributed to this, because it's a bunch of doctors, through lines and lines of doctors going all the way back, who have all contributed to it because they've been so fucking stupid. They haven't thought about it, they haven't questioned it, they haven't been ethical. They don't value sexuality. They don't value humanity, human experience, in a fundamental way. They're selfish, and that's a part of it too. All humans are selfish, and that's good and right. They should be selfish, but only up to a point. You need to be selfish enough to take care of yourself, and then you need to give to others. And that's what's so fucked up about this, is because someone didn't think about how something would affect me. Because many people, because a whole society, because anyone in society could have fixed this. Anyone. It only takes a handful of people, a very small number of people, really caring about this, and they could have ended it at any time in the whole history of humanity. But no one fucking cares enough, and no one thinks about it, and no one cares about sexuality enough, or about children enough, about the future. And that's what it is. I mean, it's such a... And it's... No one cares about love. Because it's not loving, and that's obvious. It's obvious. Love is seeing something else as yourself. How could you do this to something, to someone, when you look at them and you see yourself and you know the pain, you know the intense pain? No one would do this to themselves, or at least very few people. I mean, it's why people torture animals too. It's like, it's just an animal. It's whatever. It's fine. you can eat meat or dairy or whatever because the suffering is so remote you don't have to think about it. And sure, they're tortured for their whole life so I can have a sandwich. But like, out of sight, out of mind. Like, no, you have to have empathy for the fucking creatures who you interact with and who you affect. Especially children, because fuck, they grow up to it's so depressing. And so there's a hatred here in me that hates that this happens, that hates the people who do it, that hates all the factors involved. That hates life, reality, God, the universe, society, myself, my own body. Because it's all interconnected, it's all part of the same thing. It's all part of the same fucked system. And I just need to give myself a second to let myself feel that, because I want to go to the solution, but like, I feel like I just need to feel this for a second. And that's important too. There's a tightness in my throat and a darkness and a constriction in my chest. It's just a sinking feeling. Almost a tiredness. And an anger and a hatred and an irritation with myself for being angry and hateful, because it's not who I want to be, and I don't like this scowl on my face, and I don't like the way it feels, because this isn't who I really am or who I want to be. And so I hate my own hatred too. And I feel it changing a little bit. It's softer or lighter. Especially as I feel myself breathe. Feels like I'm almost breathing it out a little bit, and just noticing that I'm breathing is kind of nice. Still tension in my back, chest, neck, face. Pretty much my whole body, my feet and my legs, stomach, anus, shoulders. And I feel myself relaxing all of the tension. And appreciating the fact that I've been gorging myself on so many trauma books and other self-development things, and I know to do all of this, or be aware of it. Because that is the process of releasing feelings, is feeling them and getting in touch with them and then just being with them. That's it. And if you need to, you can access resources to help you ground that, or protect yourself from it being too intense. But anyways, I don't want to be a hateful person, but I am a hateful person. I am full of hatred sometimes. It's there. And when I do that, when I go into it like that, I know I release it, and so I want to do that more. And that's why I'm doing this. And why I need to keep doing it for, I don't know. I've been working on this trauma on and off for 4 years. Coming up on 4 1/3 years. But I mean, really, I've only done it for 2 years out of that time that I've been really working on it. But I know I probably have another year. Or at least 6 months. I mean, it depends how much work I do, I think. I really would like to do enough work in the next 6 months that I can basically be good with this when I go to school. And I think writing this book on circumcision trauma healing and then applying it even more to myself and really thinking critically about it and is going to force me to do that. And I really hope so, because I have things to do, and the circumcision trauma really makes it difficult to do intactivism, to do all the things I want to do. And so it is worth it. It is worth it, because in the moment it seems indulgent, or it seems like, okay, I'm getting through the trauma, it seems like it's gone, but I know I have to overdo it. I know I have to overcorrect. I have to overheal, because it's always deeper than I think. There's always more layers. So this hatred, I can still feel it in my jaw, in my neck, in my back, shoulders. It's like a knot now between my left shoulders, between my shoulders, kind of on the left side, on the back. Just like a thing with like things coming out, like you can feel into the shape and the color and the intensity and the texture, and notice all those things. It's smooth, kind of purple, blue, kind of vibrating and grainy, but smooth. Looks like a neuron or something, or some kind of cell. But it's got kind of a demonic sort of look to it. It's kind of like a black hole. It feels like it sucks me in a little bit. So I just noticed the space around it. Let it radiate its black body radiation outwards. Yeah, I still don't know what the solution for hatred is. I know that it's connected to love, and it's good to see that, because I want to be happy and I want the world to be happy. But I feel like I can't just move toward happiness. I feel like this thing is here, and it's going to keep sucking me back as long as it exists. And it's not just inside me, it's in the world. It's every time I read a post about circumcision or interact with someone who has trauma. It's there. And it's the same energy, and it reactivates it in me. And I need to reform my whole orientation toward it and deal with it effectively, not just in myself, but in the whole world, or else it's not truly eliminated, because that's who I am. Because I am someone who doesn't feel like an individual. I feel like I'm part of, not a collective, but I mean, it's both. You're an individual I feel like I'm an individual who's responsible for the entire collective. And whether that's right or wrong, it's how I feel. And so, as long as the collective is still in pain, I can't let myself push that away or forget about it. I need to do my healing work and separate myself out enough so that I can heal. But then I need to keep engaging with the collective and find ways to integrate it with my own healing work. And so I think that's part of what I need to continue doing going forward. I need to keep doing my healing work like I'm doing right now, and going into the trauma work, into the trauma, into the pain, and releasing and integrating with it and just giving it space and time, and do that, and talk about it and let myself know what I need to know. I need to do this on a regular basis for a good amount of time. And I'm seeing that. I'd like to have a therapist, and I might still do that, but we'll see. There's a part of me that feels like I should go more into the circumcision, into it, and talk about it. And then there's a part of me that doesn't want to. It's like, I've already done it so many times. I've already gone into it so many fucking times. Yeah, it's still there, but is it ever gonna be gone? Can it ever be healed? Am I actually making it better, or am I just making it worse? Am I digging in the wounds? Am I really healing it? I mean, yeah, it's healed over time, but has it healed in the past? I don't know. Is it continuing to get better? Really? Maybe it is. I'm sure it is, you know? there's this uncertainty in me, which is valid, because sometimes you can make trauma worse by going into it too much. But I know there's more healing work to do, and I think it can be healed all the way. And part of me is just resistant because it's just painful. I just hate it. I hate going into it. But I feel like that's what I want to do right now. And I feel like it's the right thing to do. I think it is love in a sense. This practice is just being with yourself. Slowing down, relaxing, and just being very gently present with whatever wants to come up, with whatever needs to come up. Not forcing it, not pushing, not having any agenda. It's a profound kindness to give yourself the time you need. It is an expression of love, and so it's partly why it is the cure, and why it is the solution. You need to give yourself more love than the hatred that is inflicted on you and the hatred that exists in the world. You need to meet that with as much or more love, the greater intensity and quality of love than the hatred that you're overcoming. Significantly greater. And that's not easy, to have that much love, to have that much patience and kindness and gentleness with yourself, and to really just be able to give yourself as much time and space, internal space, as you need. Being totally unconditionally present, unconditionally loving and open to yourself. It's something you increase your capacity for over time, you know. That's what meditation practice is. It's getting better and better at being just kindly with whatever comes up. Making friends with the moment, making friends with what comes up. And you don't have to bring up any trauma. Just that practice of being friendly is so profoundly transformative. That's enough. And if you have trauma, it's almost inevitable that the trauma will come up. So I do believe you can actually cure PTSD with purely just mindfulness, with the right quality of mindfulness if you understand it. It's just bringing a loving awareness to your experience, and then time. Not just time. If you give yourself just time, but you're suppressing it and you're pushing it down and trying not to think about it and coping with a bunch of unhelpful and destructive strategies, then it can get worse, a lot worse. But if you give yourself time to really be there for yourself in the way that you deserve, in the way that your parents and society should have been there for you, and you can give yourself the love that you need, that you deserve. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. I think I just got a message from Tyler Drozd at Foragen. But not now, man. It can be therapeutic too to just feel your heart beating. Breathing is the one of the most common focuses of meditation, and it's useful too. But feeling your heartbeat is underrated. And I think most important of all is to just be aware of all of yourself, whatever's coming up, and bringing love to that, bringing open attention, allowing. This again is sinking in like my lower half from my stomach down, kind of just like a little bit of like a really low scale depression, or like fuck kind of feeling, shit. Like, I think denial is always there. I think denial exists until you're 100% healed. You know, it's one of the 5 stages of grief, but the 5 stages of grief aren't really linear. And I think they all recur. I don't know if full healing is even possible in some sense. Different people say different things. Or what full healing means, perhaps, is the better question. and then it does exist in some ways and doesn't in others. You can't go back to who you used to be, but you can become someone new who's even better, is what I believe. Because this depression is just like it's just the realization that my body is mutilated, it's harmed. And it's like when I'm focusing on other things and my attention goes other places, I have a little bit of amnesia. It's like, because I'm not focusing on it, it's like the fact that this is the reality that we live in is like, it's so bizarre and impossible to integrate that it's a little bit of a shock when I come back to it, and it's a little bit like, how is this possible? I don't believe it. It can't be that part of my penis was cut off as a baby, and that my parents did it to me on purpose. How is that possible? And now I have to live like this for the rest of my life. Unless we achieve foreskin regeneration. Or until we achieve foreskin regeneration. But like, this is really here. And even if we do achieve foreskin regeneration, it's like so many men throughout history have lived their whole lives mutilated. Many men have killed themselves over it. Like, this is our actual reality. This is the world. Why should we assume we're special and something magical is going to happen to save us? Like, this is a cruel fucking world we live in. And that's the reality. That's the truth. The world is a horrible, horrible, horrible place. At least some of the time. At least for some people. Like, you can't deny that truth anymore when you've experienced this and we've gone deeply into it. And it's not just a horrible place for some people, it's a horrible place for me. It has been a horrible place for me. My life up to this point has not been worth living. The pain I've suffered has outweighed the pleasure by orders of magnitude. It's not even close. No one should ever have to suffer that much. It's like, it's just sad. It feels like eternal sadness. I feel it in my stomach now, in my belly, and in my heart. Just like the foreskin isn't there. Sure, I'm restoring and it's improved somewhat. Still have a long fucking way to go. Decades. And even then it's like it's still not the same. There's this absence there. There's this eternal absence that's just like aching sadness that I am this person. And one of the worst things is, and I hate this so much, is that when I think about intact people, and this is one of the intrusive symptoms that still really bothers me, is I love Ed Sheeran and I love Elvis Presley and I love certain musicians or certain people. And all I can think about when I think of them, it's just constantly there, just stabbing me in this, like, in the side of the head is where I feel it right now. But it's just like this barbed wire into me. I know they're intact. I know they're fundamentally different than I am. They experience their sexuality and who they are, like the way that they feel and they're alive and they're integrated, and what they are is a different thing than I can ever be. Even if I got my foreskin back at this point, it's affected me from childhood and changed the core of my being. I am not whole and natural and innocent, or I'm not a chosen one. I am not the lucky one. I'm having trouble expressing it, but it's like I always used to feel like, wow, I am the luckiest human being in the world. I'm the luckiest thing in the universe. You know, I could have been born as a spider. I could have been like a meteor, like halfway across the universe, or space dust, or I could have been born as a oak tree or some bullshit. I'm born as a human being, and as a really good one, and a really good, incredible time in the history of the universe. Like it's almost I couldn't imagine being born in a better situation. And it's like, wow, that is shattered as profoundly as it can be. That is completely shattered. And I just remembered, it came to me that I should slow down and be with whatever's coming up. Because just spouting off this stuff can be helpful, and it is helpful. But there's a limit to it, and it's much more helpful, I think, to slow down and really be with it, because it gets to a point where you're just default mode network throwing random stuff out without it even really registering, and it doesn't have the same therapeutic effect, I think, if you're not actually aware of what's going through you. And allowing yourself the space and time to really be with that. It occurs to me I don't know if I want to talk about that right now. It's kind of peripheral. I really want to be happy for people who are intact, for men and women who are intact. And in my stomach I feel this yearning and just sadness or despair and anger and jealousy. It's a hard feeling to define. It's not fair. It's not fair and shame, but that it's not my fault. I should be able to love those people. And part of me hates them. Part of me hates them because they just remind me of what I can't have. They remind me of what I am and what I'm not. They're just traumatic triggers that spark this hatred, and then I hate myself even more for hating them because I don't want to be this hateful being. And perhaps that's why hatred is such a deep issue for me, is because I care so much about love, and because this does spark hatred, and the more hatred that it sparks, the more I hate myself for feeling hateful, and the more I hate myself, the deeper the trauma gets. And it's a feedback loop, and we have these feedback loops with trauma based on our proclivities, and so I think this is one for me. And it turns you inside out, it turns you into the opposite of what you were. So often. And it's like, what's the solution? How do I fix that? I want to be loving toward people who are intact. Especially, women, because fuck, I used to love eating women out so much. I'm literally the best at it in the world. Or at least I could be. I'm good at it. But it's like, I haven't been in a relationship for 3 years now. And I still love it, but I also hate it because it's that same thing. I can feel myself giving her such profound pleasure. And it's like, wow, I know I'm good at this. I know I'm really fucking good at it. But like, it's not just that. It's the fact that she has a clitoris. It's the fact that her clitoris hasn't been cut off. And the natural human body is capable of extraordinary levels of pleasure if you know what you're doing. And the only reason I'm not capable of that isn't because I haven't had good sexual partners. I've had at least one who was unbelievably good, one of the best, crazy good. But it's the same hatred when I would eat her out, when she would give me a blowjob. It felt unbelievably good, but it's like, it's not like when I did it to her. It's not even close. It's not in the same dimension. Because I'm not capable of that. Because sure, the psychology, I'm filled with hatred and rage, and that comes up, or it's there, and there's a part of me that's blocking it out, and it's all just twisted and horrible. But there's a part of it also that's like, there's an actual physical thing I'm missing that would really make it profoundly different. And I love sensitivity. I love it. I'm unbelievably sensitive as a person, and my sensitivity has been taken away, and my dick is can barely feel anything. It's as much psychological thrill and pleasure, and that is more it's more that than it is physical pleasure, honestly. I just am not capable of it. And it's like, it's so fucking dark, because that's what can't be brought back by restoration. A lot of the physical pleasure can be brought back, but the sensitivity can't. The ridged band can't. The A large part of the frenulum that's gone can't. All the inner foreskin that's gone can't be brought back. It doesn't stretch fast enough. It'd take me till I'm 150 to get enough inner foreskin to cover it. I mean, I intend to live to 150, and I'll restore that full time, so I'm sure I'll have the world record longest foreskin. I mean, I'm sure by then it'll be regenerated, so I can just regenerate it to be like 10 feet long, which is what I intend to do. Have just a harem of women massaging my 800-foot-long foreskin. And I'll have like 20 of them too, just like coming out of every part of my body. I mean, by then I'll be able to engineer multiple brains, so I'll be able to experience like all these. It'll be like a mega brain with all the different pleasure centers connected to 8,000 different foreskins. I could go further into that, but this is another video. I totally lost the train of thought there. I can't have that. Not right now. Not for a long fucking time. If ever. And like, it's difficult because going into that, the response is just to numb out. I feel myself right now. I was just in a place where when I went into that again, it's just like everything just drops. There's no attention. There's no kindness or love or awareness or space. It's just like dead. It just like drops to the ground. And I know that doesn't heal me, but that's where it takes me. That's why it's hard to do this, is because I have to go into that pain. And I still don't know how to fix that. Because when I think of being in a relationship with a woman, and her having her full genitals and me not, like I just can't imagine what she would have to do to make me feel like it's fair. Like she would have to do an unbelievable amount more of pleasuring me for me to feel like it's really fair. And then I'd feel guilty, and I'd feel like I'm using her, and I would feel dirty and selfish and wrong, because that's not my nature. I love giving pleasure, and I want to do that, and I don't want... Part of me is afraid to ask, too. That's a part of it. I'm afraid to ask for what I want, and I know that's something I need to overcome and really work on. I don't ask enough. I don't demand enough or recognize my needs and advocate for them. And find someone who can meet them. I haven't done that for myself. Or if someone just wants to meet my needs, I assume that they're weak and needy. And that's a maturity thing, I think. Hopefully. Hopefully I've grown since my last relationship. And will attract different things, and I'm older and whatever. But I want to fix the hatred and the jealousy, and I don't know if it can be fixed. And it's like, I know just going into it helps, and sometimes I think maybe I should just use this time to do that rather than speaking, because it's different exercises and good for different reasons. And I can do both, I suppose. I can let myself just go into that jealousy or envy and hatred. And just be with it. Maybe give some voice to it. It's not fair. Finding the right phrases and to evoke the feeling and kind of encapsulate the feeling can help. Process the feelings. It's ultimately the feelings, I think, are the most fundamental thing that bother us, although the thoughts help shape the feelings. Certainly images and body sensations are players too. Yeah, just I feel my jaw clench. I think about giving her pleasure. Just my stomach clenches. My chest closes down. I just want to curl up and just like, or maybe just attack. It's like, yeah, that's the hatred. It's like I just want to destroy. I want her to not exist. I want her to not exist because it's just reminding me of how much I'm hurting. It's reminding me of what I could have. And if she's not here, I can block it out. If I don't see how much pleasure she's capable of, then I can delude myself, or I can at least not think about it. But when I think about it, I just hate her so much. And it's so wrong because she's the person I love most in the whole world, or want to love most. And part of me just can't even do that because she's fundamentally a different creature than I am. We're worlds apart in a way that's like a different species or different. She makes me feel inhuman. She reminds me that I have been treated as a non-human being, dehumanized in the worst way possible. And seeing her humanity and honoring her humanity and pleasuring her humanity isn't something I should have to do, which is so fucked up because I want to so fucking badly, and I love it, and it was my favorite thing in the world. I really fucking loved it. And now I hate it, and I hate her, and I hate myself, and etc. Everything. I hate everything. Again, just being with that hatred. There's part of me that's saying it's not fair. There's part of me that's saying she deserves it. I don't know where that's coming from, but maybe she deserves the hatred because it's her fault that I am mutilated. Because if there weren't people with whole genitalia, then there couldn't be people with non-whole genitalia, something like that. Kind of metaphysical. But still, the hatred is there. Sadness. Just like sick of it, tired of it. And I was just bringing awareness, giving space, non-judgmental, being with the feeling in my body and opening to it. There's a sadness there underneath. Because it is, again, it's love that I want. Because what more profound form of love is there than pleasuring someone who you love? Than doing something purely just to give them ecstasy. It's like I want that tenderness. Because oral sex isn't just it's not about getting off. It's about showing someone how much you love them, how much you love life, how much you love the divine masculine or the divine feminine that is one of the most fundamental and beautiful parts of who they are, and showing your appreciation, and showing your ecstasy and appreciation of that in them. And you can't fucking do that if the body part isn't there. because that part of them doesn't exist anymore. It's gone and it's dead. It's murdered. Not just dead, it's murdered horrifically. And that's there. It's in the room. It's in your mind. No matter how hard you try to push it down, it's still there. You're just walling yourself off and shutting down your brain to the pleasure that you have left because you can't feel that. And it's also because you shut yourself down to all of this, to all of the experience of the divinity and the beauty of sexuality, the archetypal, metaphysical, evolutionary, biological, social, relational. There's so much depth there, and you just shut it all down. You can't experience it in the same way. And maybe that's the part of the problem, is that you can experience it in the same way. You can experience so much of it. You can open yourself up to that, but not as long as the trauma's still there, and that's why it needs to be addressed. Because all of that's still there. And you can let it have free reign and let your mind expand and fly to other dimensions and experience God or whatever bullshit you believe in. Universal union with whatever. I think we're all capable of that, even if the physical is limited. I think you can access that with... And so... And that's what Tantra is about, and to some degree, and different mystical, sexual. But you can only experience that love and that oneness in diversity the playfulness and you have to let yourself go through the trauma. I have to let myself go through the trauma. It's still there. And when I think about it now, there's some release, and I know that there's always that with catharsis when you go into the pain, and so it has to re-stabilize before you really know what difference it's made. But I haven't really gone into this before. Yeah, there's so many pieces of circumcision. I've gone into numerous, and there's numerous left. And you have to go into each of the numerous pieces many times to really get through it, I think, often. But it does feel lighter. There's a more tenderness where there was hatred. More openness in the center. The hatred's kind of on the outside, in the periphery. I feel a longing to connect more to express this to someone, to tell a partner, to say, hey, this is how I feel about this. This is how this affects me. I need some tenderness from you. I need you to understand that sexually I have certain needs because this trauma has really profoundly affected me. And I have certain physical needs, and I have certain psychological needs that are really deep and aren't just sexually desirable, but like I need help healing this that I can't do on my own because I can't heal certain parts of partnered sexuality without a partner, I can go into it and release some of the emotion, but to meet these physical desires I have in this deep metaphysical and relational and sexual part of myself, that can only be it has to be communicated, You can't just hope for the best and hope that they know what you want. And it's hard because it's so deep, and because the reason you want it, the reason you need it, is because you had your genitals mutilated. And you have to express that somehow. And you have to tell them, you have to explain to them. I don't know, actually. But I have a feeling that I really would like to go into that more. That I like to say to someone, hey, my penis has been hurt really bad, and it feels that that's in it, and it's like I can do things to try to treat my penis and to treat myself well, but I want someone else to do that too. I want someone else to be loving toward my penis. I want you to do these things to it. I want you to treat it in this way. I want you to kiss the scar. I want you to lightly just kiss it or hold it or snuggle it or caress it or say you're sorry that it happened or something, whatever. There's a talk to it. Do any numerous things to my penis that are kind of weird and unusual, but would be really nice and would actually be really helpful, and probably won't fly with. I'm sure I could hire a prostitute and have her do it, but it wouldn't be the same. It's got to come from genuine love. Not that prostitutes aren't loving, or that there aren't prostitutes out there who are deeply conscious and aware and tantric and whatever. But to not be paying for it somehow adds an element where it's just coming purely from desire to help me heal. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being bigoted here. I'm sorry. I love you prostitutes. You guys are the best. I've never, I've never, I've never enjoyed your favors because I'm poor, and maybe I still have some blockages around that. But it's again another issue, another video. Yeah, so much of trauma healing is going into the thing, then going out of it, then going into it, then going out of it, then going into it, then going out of it. So I just noticed myself going into the same issue again, the thoughts about an intact partner, or it's not a thought, there's just a feeling, there's a gestalt, if you will, this image or this I don't know, I think there's a whole collection of a web of neurons associated with it that you kind of access all at once, and it's just gestalt. It's the best word I can think of. And just going into that, and again, it's like every time you go into it and then talk about it and then feel the emotions, say what you need to say, have kindness for yourself, give yourself space and time, and more kindness, more love, openness, tenderness. Relaxing the tension, or letting yourself just feel the tension, at least. Noticing your body, going into it again. And eventually, it changes. I mean, it changes every time, and it's very well established in psychological research. Every time you access any neural circuit in your brain, it changes. And so you can change your thoughts and your feelings, your reactions, your behaviors, who you are, to be who you want to be. And the good news is that, and this is what the great discovery of the humanistic psychology school, that humans are naturally good. We get into these positions where we end up being bad, or in these conundrums. But if you get the human alone and just allow it to, and not just human, but any living creature, the nature is to, or the tendency is to self-actualize. Always to move towards, up the hierarchy of needs, towards self-actualization, if you just give yourself the space and the attention to let your natural, your deep self, your true self, your higher self, yourself with the capital S, come through. That's always there, and that's the great discovery of internal family systems. That self is always there, and it's easily accessible if you just take a few minutes and just be quiet and let it come through. It knows what you need. You know how to heal. You know how to create goodness in the world, and you want to create goodness in the world. It's just these tangles of hatred and things that where our emotions get emotions and thoughts and things get twisted and turned inside out and conflicted. But giving yourself that that space and time, they unwind and they integrate and they form a new thing. And that's what's so beautiful about this, is it's like that desire, I know that desire to give a woman pleasure is still there, but it was buried underneath all this hatred and anger. And when I just let myself go into that, and release some of that hatred, then that naturally comes out and strengthens itself. And I can feel it stronger than it was before. And with all the things I went into today, these things just kind of unwind and integrate. It's a very organic process, which is why the instructions for this exercise are relatively simple. There's, a lot of little things I've said here, tips and tricks, but it's basically just give yourself some space and some time and say what you need to say. Let yourself know what you don't know, what you've been hiding from, what you're scared to say, what you feel. And just say all of it, all the details. I haven't talked in great detail about certain elements of circumcision because I've already gone so deeply into them. You can talk about all the different elements of the trauma and the pain and how you feel about it and what you want in the future and how it's affected you positively, negatively, everything. How it's affected your relationships, your experience of your body and your sexuality. And one thing I was going to say earlier, and then I stopped myself. I'm really excited for where this could go in terms of helping activists. I know I could write something that really helps revolutionize how activists think about the psychological element of this. And there's some myths, like the idea that being more traumatized somehow makes you a better activist. That's not true. I know that's not true. It drains you of your energy. It destroys you. It drains you of your creativity and your ability to relate to people, your ability to be intelligent and think into the future and be constructive. It really drains you of so many essential capacities to be a good activist. You just can't think clearly. And you can't, and your energy is just drained out of you. And I know from first-hand experience how powerful and effective trauma work is, and I know I can condense that and put it into a book and express how important all of this is. And so I'm really excited for it, because all of the top activists, almost all of the top activists I know, in like all of them, from Bloodstained Men, Intact America, Eric Klopper, Brendan Marotta, are some of the ones who I know well, have all expressed a deep desire for this healing material to be out there. Like, really, those people have been a lot of my top supporters and some of the most strong advocates for healing. People in those areas, groups, people. So I know the community is hungry for this, and that there's support for it. And I know it matters. I really do know that, perhaps deeper than anyone, how powerful this can be in transforming circumcision and its psychological trauma and grief and depression and autism and alexithymia and body dysmorphia and substance abuse and the other things it causes too. I mean, there's a lot more than that, but it's a good start. Transforming all of that into power, into their opposite, because this trauma, this pain, it debilitates us. But then when we heal it, I think we're even, as I said, much stronger than we would have been had we not experienced it. So I'm excited. And follow my stuff. Follow my channel. I'm writing a book on healing circumcision trauma. It'll be really good. Really good. Really good. And I hope you read it and pay me money. And you could all support me on Patreon if you want, because I'm really broke. I'm like absurdly broke. Like, I'm not even gonna tell you the things I do because I'm so broke, because it's really embarrassing and illegal. No, I'm not a prostitute. I'd love to be, but I haven't gotten into that yet. And I say yet strongly. Sorry, I want to be like a tantric masseuse. I think that would be really cool. Like that, I'd be into that, because I want to be a massage therapist. But someone I know recently was like, "Yeah, do tantric massage." I'm like, "Hey, that's a thing, isn't it? Why didn't I think of that?" Probably because my wrists are fucked. I can't do anything with my wrists or my knees. Man. So anyhow, where was I going with that? Give me money. I have Patreon. That's also in the thing below. Read my book. Follow my channel. Oh, I'm doing a research study on circumcision. I didn't talk about that today. But I'm doing a research study, and that'll be out soon. So follow my channel also for that. I'll probably post it a bunch of different places. I intend for it to be the largest study by a lot of circumcision trauma. I mean, I don't think, and the psychological effects of circumcision, because I don't think this stuff has really been studied very much. It's been pretty minimal. So this will be a massive, really, really good research. Hopefully I'll get some deep insights into what causes circumcision trauma, how to help it, what the nature of it is. Is it more trauma? Is it more depression? Is it more grief? Or something else? What are the other contributing factors? How can we mitigate it? How can we help it? How can we transform it? And etc., etc., etc. Stay tuned. That's it. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.